Hello everyone, welcome to my guide to Shaddoll post-Terminal World 3. Shaddoll is an archetype that released in 2014 that has stayed relevant since then, and there is a reason why. This archetype influenced every fusion archetype that came after it, and it really laid the foundation for fusion decks in the future. You'll see its influence in decks like Dracotail and Branded, and anyway, I'm excited to get into it, so let's do it. Shaddoll is a flip fusion deck revolving around your main deck flip monsters and your Shaddoll fusion monsters. We'll start with our first main deck monster, Tohu Shaddoll Grista. Grista's flip effect lets it copy any Shaddoll flip effect in your grave, and notably, this ignores once per turns, which is important. And then if this card is sent to the grave by card effect, you can fuse it into a Shaddoll by banishing monsters from your hand, field, or grave. Then this effect locks you into only summoning Shadolls from your extract the turn you use it, and you can only use one effective Grista per turn. This card has a lot of things you will see in the other Shaddoll monsters. It's got a flip effect, an effect when sent to grave by card effect, and you can only use one effect per turn. Another important aspect of this card is the lock on it. This is to keep the new Shaddoll cards from being splashed into every fusion deck, and I think it absolutely does that job. I would argue Shaddoll is best now as a pure strategy, and I would argue pure Shaddoll is really good. I wouldn't be making this video otherwise. Grista is phenomenal. Copying the Shaddoll effects lets you bypass hard once per turns, and being able to fuse when sent to grave is super useful. This deck didn't have a Miracle Fusion, so this is that Miracle Fusion. After that, we've got 3 Shaddoll Squamata. Squamata's flip effect lets you target a monster on the field and destroy it, and then if this card is sent to the grave by card effect, you can send a Shaddoll card from your deck to the grave. Squamata is really good as a way to send an extra name to the grave to be used as material for something like a Grista, and it's also good as a tutor for any other Shaddoll, so you can use this as fusion material on hand, and then send any Shaddoll you want in order to use their effect. Its flip effect isn't bad either, because you have ways to quick flip on your opponent's turn, so this can be used as an interruption. After that, we've got 3 Resh Shaddoll Wendy. Wendy on flip can summon a Shaddoll monster from your deck in face up or face down defense, and then if she's sent to the grave by card effect, you can summon a Shaddoll from your deck face down. This card is really good for swarming the field and getting your Shadolls in a rotation and gaining card advantage. You can fuse this off, summon a Shaddoll from deck, then fuse that Shaddoll and your fusion monster off for another fusion monster to trigger both of their effects. It's very good for keeping fusion materials up. After that, we've got 2 Shaddoll Hedgehog. Shaddoll Hedgehog on flip can search any Shaddoll spell or trap, and then if this card is sent to the grave by card effect, you can add a Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand. This card is good for getting your pieces, and for many of the same reasons Wendy is good. The reason we're playing 2 of it is because Squamata and Wendy just do what Hedgehog does, but better. After that, we've got 1 Shaddoll Beast. On flip, he draws you 2, then discards a card, and when it's sent to the grave by card effect, you can draw a card. It's a solid one of, and it's just a way to draw a bunch of cards and gain more advantage. And then finally, we've got 1 Shaddoll Dragon, which on flipped, you can target a card your opponent controls and bounce it. And if this card is sent to the grave by card effect, you can target a spell trap on the field and destroy it. This card is great for adding an extra interruption to the board and helping to break boards going second. I think this is a solid one of, but I wouldn't play more due to this card being bad to draw going first. After that, we've got 3 Shaddoll Fusion. This card can fusion summon a Shaddoll using monsters from your hand or field as material, but if your opponent controls an extract monster, you can also use monsters from your deck as material, and you can only activate one of this card per turn. You might notice that this card is one of many fusion spells that fuse from deck. Crazy, it's almost like they give that to every fusion deck nowadays. But Shaddoll was one of the first to do it, which is why this effect is kinda restrictive, because this effect wasn't common back then, and so they did have to put that restriction on it. That being said, this card is still really good. Going first, it's Poly, which is still solid in this deck, and going second, it's the best card in the deck. After that, we've got 3 L Shaddoll Fusion. It's a quick play that allows you to fusion summon into a Shaddoll using monsters from your hand or field as material, and it's a hard once per turn. It's similar to Shaddoll Fusion, just without the send from deck effect going second, but it's a quick play, which is really useful. Usually you'll be searching this as part of your combo, using it, then adding it back with one of your Shaddoll Fusions. It's a really strong card. After that, we've got 3 of our last Shaddoll Fusion, Lev Shaddoll Fusion. It's a continuous spell that, when activated, allows you to send a fusion monster from your extract to the grave, and you can also tribute a fusion monster to summon a Shaddoll Fusion with a different attribute from your extra deck, and this is treated as a fusion summon, and its attack becomes 0. This card also has the Shaddoll lock on it if you use either of its effects. This card is phenomenal. This card lets you trigger your Shaddoll Fusions, which all have effects when sent to grave, and this card also lets you tag a Shaddoll Fusion for another Shaddoll Fusion, allowing you to trigger the tributed monster's grave effect and the summon monster's effect on field. This also allows you to cycle through the Shaddoll Fusion's non-once per turn effects, and I'd argue this is the strongest new card due to giving Shaddoll a 1-card combo, something they did not have previously in Engine, at least going first. After that, we've got 3 Void Liberation. Void Liberation can reveal a Shaddoll card in your hand to search 2 Shaddoll cards of different types from the revealed card and each other, and then you can discard a card. So if you reveal a monster, you can search a spell and a trap, and this is a good way to trigger Shaddolls and search your harder to search Shaddoll spells and traps. Very simple card. After that, we've got 1 Shaddoll Schism. This is a continuous trap that allows you to fusion summon a Shaddoll Fusion by banishing materials from your field or grave, and then you can send to the grave one monster your opponent controls with the same attribute as your fusion summon monster. This effect does not target, making it great into decks like Yummy. It's a very strong card, quick fusing is great, and removal on top of that is even better. Finally, we've got 1 Resh Shaddoll Incarnation. This card can target a Shaddoll monster in your grave and summon it face up or face down, and you can banish this card and a Shaddoll from your grave to flip a Shaddoll monster face up or face down, and you can only use 1 of those effects per turn. We're playing this because it's the next best searchable Shaddoll trap, but you could cut it, to be honest. And then for the non-engine, we've got 1 Called by the Grave, 3 Super Poly, because most of our Shaddolls take generic monsters of different attributes. If they're on a dark, earth, light, or wind deck, they can be used for a Shaddoll fusion. Next, we're on 3 Dracotail Phimena. This is one of the only non-Dracotail decks that can abuse Phimena as a hand trap. We have 2 Spellcaster Shaddoll fusions that are good to make on our opponent's turn and are fairly easy to make. If we draw Phimena plus any 2 Shaddoll names, we can play on turn 0. So we basically get to use Phimena in the same way Dracotail can, arguably even better, because our Shaddoll fusions that we're making are kinda crazy. Finally, we've got 3 Molcharmifoulos and 3 Ash Blossom. Now onto our extra deck, we've got 2 El Shaddoll Mesharail. This Shaddoll fusion takes a Shaddoll monster, a Dark monster, and an Earth monster. It must be fusion summoned, and that text is on all of the Shaddoll fusion monsters. It's unaffected by your opponent's activated spell trap effects and by activated monster effects whose original level or rank is lower than Mesharail's. So this makes this card unaffected by most cards except Link monsters. And then once per turn, you can pay 800 life to search for a Shaddoll card or a Void spell trap, so it searches the entire deck. And then finally, if this card is sent to the grave, you can summon any Shaddoll monster from the grave. This card's phenomenal for being impossible to interact with, searching any of our cards, and for taking 3 materials, meaning we can send 3 cards from deck with Shaddoll Fusion. This is insane, and lets you board break your opponent into hell. They're gonna die. After that, we've got 1 El Shaddoll Shekanaga. Shekanaga takes a Shaddoll monster and an Earth monster, and when a special summon monster activates its effect, you can negate the activation, then destroy that card, and then send a Shaddoll card from your hand to the grave. Then, if this card is sent to the grave, you can target a Shaddoll spell trap in your grave and add it to your hand. This is good to have in the deck as an option for an end board piece or for breaking boards going second. After that, we've got 3 El Shaddoll Construct. This is the most important Shaddoll extra deck monster, and she takes a Shaddoll and a Light monster. If she is special summoned, you can send a Shaddoll card from your deck to the grave, and at the start of the damage step, if she battles a special summon monster, you can destroy that monster, and if she's sent to the grave, you can add a Shaddoll spell trap back from your grave. This card really highlights a quirk with most of the Shaddoll monsters, and that is a lack of a once per turn on most of these cards. You can use Construct's effects multiple times per turn, meaning you can cycle through multiple copies of her to add back spell traps and send Shaddolls over and over again. This card and Mesharail are the 2 strongest Shaddolls when it comes to gaining advantage. Next, we've got 2 El Shaddoll Opcalone. This is the only Shaddoll fusion that has a hard once per turn. Opcalone can't be destroyed by battle, and on special summon can target a face-up card on the field and negate it. And if it's sent to the grave, you can add a Shaddoll card from your deck or grave to your hand, and then discard a card. This card is really important as it's the only monster, the monster you usually be sending with Lev Shaddoll Fusion, which will allow you to search any Shaddoll spell trap, or search and then discard any Shaddoll to trigger their effects. This card is also a really good interruption to summon on your opponent's turn. And then after that, we've got 1 Resh Shaddoll Windy Kurhu. She takes a Shaddoll and a Wind monster and has the quick effect to change any number of face-down monsters face-up. Then, book other monsters in the field up to the number of flip monsters you flip face-up. Lastly, if she's sent to the grave, you can add a Shaddoll card from your grave to your hand. This card is how you'll be flipping your Shaddolls on your opponent's turn. You can end on a set Shaddoll, flip it up with Windy Kurhu, book one of your opponent's monsters, and then trigger your Shaddoll to gain more advantage or further disrupt your opponent with something like a Squamata or a Dragon. Next, we've got 2 El Shaddoll Winda. She takes a Shaddoll and a Dark monster, and she cannot be destroyed by card effects. While she's on the field, both players can only special summon once per turn, and when she's sent to the grave, you can add 1 Shaddoll spell trap back from the grave. This is the most infamous Shaddoll monster due to its stupid, annoying floodgate effect. It's the only thing I don't like about this deck. It can turbo out this very powerful floodgate that's hard to get rid of. It's also the easiest Shaddoll to make, as almost any combination of them can result in Winda. Winda is certainly a reason to play the deck. Maybe not the reason, but definitely a reason. After that, we've got one Infernoid Evil. You might be wondering why this is in the list, and it's because of its Grave effect that lets you add a Void spell trap when it's sent to the grave. This allows you to use Lev Shaddoll Fusion to search Void Liberation, which isn't necessary, but it's definitely useful. Next, we got one Garura, which is a good super poly target and a potential send for Lev Shaddoll Fusion. And then after that, we've got one Dragos Depelia and one Secretarion Dragon as additional super poly targets. That's it for the main and extra deck, and now I want to move on to the side deck, where there's a ton of cards I want to talk about. First is Nesh Shaddoll Genius, which is a great card to send off of Shaddoll Fusion going second. It can target an effect monster when sent to grave by card effect and stop that monster from activating its effects. Nail Shaddoll Aerial is also a really good card. It can on flip target a banished Shaddoll and summon face up or face down. And if she's sent to the grave by card effect, you can target up to 3 cards in the grave and banish them. That second effect is really strong, however, it's not good in every matchup, but I would definitely side a copy of this card. Next, this deck actually has a Link monster in Shaddoll Construct. It takes 2 flip monsters and can fuse into a Shaddoll monster using cards from your hand or field. This card's really good for allowing you to utilize other flip engines in this deck, such as Mimighoul, where you can use some of your flip monsters to make this, and then use this to bridge into your Shaddoll engine. This card isn't bad, I just don't think this deck is that good at making it. Next, we have El Shaddoll Grista, who takes a Shaddoll and a fire monster. Grista negates special summons and then pitches a Shaddoll from your hand. This card is basically the summon negate version of Shekanaga and is really good if there's a fire deck in the format due to being a great super poly target. At the moment there isn't, so we're not playing her. Then we have El Shaddoll Annoy Attilis. Very difficult name, which takes a Shaddoll and a water monster and has the effect to stop players from summoning monsters from the hand or grave using spell and trap effects. It's a very weird floodgate card, but when that floodgate is good, it's really good. So I would keep this card in mind, and it's also a good super poly target against water decks. Next, I want to talk about Sinister Shadow Games. It's another Shaddoll trap that allows you to send a Shaddoll from the deck to the grave, and then you can flip any number of Shaddolls face up. This is a really powerful card, but it's not searchable due to not being an actual Shaddoll card, so unfortunately it doesn't make the cut. Next we have Natis, which is just a good potential send off of Lev Shaddoll Fusion, and next we have the Draco Tail engine, which I think is really powerful in this deck. They give you potential normal summons and take advantage of the fact that we're already playing Femina. After the card breakdown, I'll show off a potential Shaddoll Draco Tail list. Then we have the Dogmatica engine, which consists of Nadir's Servant, Maximus, Ecclesia, and Fallen in the Virtuous. This engine lets you dump a lot of Shaddoll monsters from your extra to the grave to trigger their grave effects, which is really powerful in a deck full of graveyard effects. Next we have the Invoked engine, one of the popular builds of this deck was Invoked Shaddoll Dogmatica, and it abused Alistair as a strong normal summon, something Shaddoll kinda lacks. You just have to be careful with the new Shaddoll locks, since those will lock you out of making your invoked fusion monsters. Next, we have the Branded engine, which can be a variety of things. Branded has a ton of options. You can use Fallen of the White Dragon to do some interesting things. I'm not really sure what things, but I'm sure Branded players have some ideas. There's also Branded Fusion, which can be used to send any of your Shaddolls from deck to grave. However, this card does conflict with the Shaddoll locks. Or you could just play Fallen in the Virtuous as a good tech card. Card lets you dodge Draco Tail Flame, and it's just a really solid option. The last engine I want to talk about is the Magistus engine, which is really good with spellcaster decks. You can use Spenta to search Crowley, and then Crowley can be used to fusion summon any of your Shaddoll fusions, or you could also make the powerful Magistus or Invoked fusions using it as well. Now I'll show off the additional deck lists, starting with Shaddoll Dogmatica. This is what I'd play if I was messing with Shaddoll Dogmatica, with 1 Maximus, 1 Ecclesia, 3 Nadir Servant, and 2 Fallen in the Virtuous. I will note most hybrid builds will have you go over 40 unless you're cutting Lev Shaddoll and Grista. Next is Shaddoll Draco Tail. We're just running 1 Lucius, 1 Malulu, 3 Ketsu, 1 Flame, and 1 Horn. This is the best engine in my opinion for making our Shaddoll fusions using the Draco Tail cards, while still being able to heavily plus off of the Draco Tail cards. I do have an Arthalion and a Gulamel in the extra just in case, but hopefully you won't have to use them. Now let's go into the combo. We're going to start with 1 Lev Shaddoll Fusion. We're going to use Lev to send Opcalone. Opcalone is going to search and discard Squamata. Squamata will trigger to send Grista, and then Grista is going to fuse into Mesharail. Then Mesharail will search for Void Liberation. We'll then use Lev Shaddoll Fusion to tag Mesharail for Construct. We'll then use Construct to send Hedgehog, who will search Wendy. We'll then use Void Liberation revealing Wendy and searching L Shaddoll Fusion and Schism. Then discarding Wendy. Wendy will trigger, summoning Beast from deck. We'll use El Shaddoll Fusion to make Winda. That will trigger our Beast in Construct and Grave to draw and add back El Shaddoll Fusion. And finally, we'll set our 2 cards and pass it back. This is a really powerful end board. Winda is insane on its own, but it's also backed up by El Shaddoll Fusion to play on your opponent's turn, and Schism, which can act as removal and further play on your opponent's turn. This gives you a variety of options for interruption, such as using Wendy to set a monster from deck, and then using a Fusion Summon Wendy Kurhu to flip that monster. Or we can summon Opcalone for a negate, or Shekanaga for an additional negate. We can also trigger something like Dragon on our opponent's turn to also interrupt them. You just have to keep in mind that Winda's Floodgate effect also affects you too, so you'll have to keep to 1 special summon until Winda potentially gets outed. We'll also have a 5-card hand to do whatever you want with. It's a very powerful 1-card combo for a deck that doesn't specialize in 1-card combos. Anyway, that's the list. I hope you all enjoyed. This part's unscripted, but the rest of this video was scripted, and I want to know how you guys feel about it. Please let me know in the comments. I feel like my audio, or not my audio, but my dialogue has just been very muddy and a lot of uhs and ahs and, you know. So I wanted to clean it up, try scripting this, and I want to see how it goes over. So hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.